Hello, lovelies. Sorry, how are you? Lovely. We're just sliding on into the weekend now. And I'm just going to give you a few thoughts on Cheryln Cadle on Dr. Oz. Now, this is weird for me because I've never seen Dr. Oz before. And having seen the show, I can safely say I'm in no hurry to do it again, really. But there you go. So, I'm going to have a quick look at what was said, my thoughts on it. I've also linked it down below. Dr. Oz has put this up to YouTube in sort of 4 2 or 3 minute segments, because why would you make one video when you can make 4? Just putting that out there. Okay, right. So we start off, I mean, we've got this guest who's spoken to this criminal, and first of all, he's described as a Colorado father. No, he's not. He killed his children, remember? And he said there was evil tormenting him and his family, and he couldn't stop himself. And the family are described as his unborn child, 2 daughters and wife. Because initially nobody has a name, because obviously the victims don't matter. Even though it's possibly not intentional, because this is not good making of a programme. This is not considered and well thought out. It's very sensationalist and, you know, da 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 da, rising music, dramatic. It's still quite insulting that nobody gave consideration to introduce Shanann, Celeste, Bella and Nico by their names. However, Chris and Cheryln are definitely mentioned. So Chris has said he was possessed by a demon. This is Dr. Oz's first question. He said he thought he might be possessed by a demon. Isn't that right? No, Dr. Oz. No, he wasn't. Don't talk shite. Basically, at least Cadle was good enough to say, well, you know, I'm not convinced about that in not so many words. You know, she said he didn't feel like it was really him, but there's no telling. You know, she's met him face to face. So, she said that Christopher felt justified, or that the letter, Dr. Oz said the letter said that he felt justified in killing anybody. And then we'll have this whole neat handwriting thing, which I was kind of perplexed by. He says he's got neat handwriting, like holding Chris Watts' letter. I don't know what that says about somebody. Yeah, genius. It says that they've got neat handwriting. Okay. I'm sorry. It's just a whole load of something out of nothing. You know, just creating things out of nothing. So yeah, Cadle kind of chuckles along. I don't know what neat handwriting says either. And so she says, Dr. Oz is saying he writes, you know, he signs himself in Christ, and he quotes scripture, and he says, God bless you. Seems like a normal person. Are you aware of how many normal people, like abnormal people, write that way? Clearly you're not. I'm like just some pleb from who does YouTube videos, who isn't highly trained in this area, and I've read so many letters in case files from nutcases who mention God. It's no detriment to God, it's a detriment to, it doesn't make any difference one way or the other, mate. So anyway, so he said, it seems, Dr. Oz says, it seems like something happened to him because he was previously a normal person. Yes, a big old dose of selfishness happened. He wasn't possessed by a demon. Why do you keep going back to this? You know, it's just like, oh God, get over it. Cheryln, bless her, has the good grace to say, I have no idea about demon possession. Dr. Oz then asked her she asked Chris if he hurt any animals. And she says, no, he said he didn't say that, but Dita didn't like him. So this kind of made me think at this juncture. I was kind of thinking, well, if Dieter didn't like him, and I'm sorry, from the police cam, he clearly doesn't like Dieter because he doesn't take much notice of him. If he's possessed by an evil demon, why not bump the dog off as well? But no, he didn't bump the dog off because A, Nikki would have liked the dog, and B, they might have left the dog behind, or maybe he was planning on taking it off somewhere so that the dog would be found. I don't know. It was all part of his whatever cockamamie scheme he had in his head at the time. But why not kill the dog as well? If he was a crazy, out of control, demon possessed man, and there's that dog that's always hated you, barks at you, you've just killed your wife and children, and this dog's going woo 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 woo, and you go, oh, good doggy. I'm sorry, it just frustrates me, because it's so obviously full of shit. Okay, so Dieter didn't like him. Well, good for Dieter. Dieter just has good taste, clearly. Okay, so the thing about Trent Bolt was brought up again. Oh, please God. So Trent Bolt was brought up again, and Trent Bolt is a nonsense to me. The police dismissed it. He's attention seeking, and that's fair enough. He can attention seek if he wants, whatever. And Chris had obviously denied this, said he didn't know who he was, has never had a gay relationship. I believe half of that just because the rest of the evidence supports it. I don't want to believe most of what Chris Watts says. So, and then Dr. Ross asked Cheryln, did you become proficient in being able to tell when he was lying? And this is where I realise Cheryln, God bless her, speaks like she writes, because she says, well, I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose him with that. You can't diagnose him with lying. No, I dare say you might struggle. Unless you're, what's his face from Lie to Me? Paul Acker or whatever he's called. The real one, not the one on the telly show. It's not a medical condition to the best of my knowledge. There are medical conditions that have that as I don't know, but I can't diagnose him with lying. And she said when he was telling the truth, his eyes got really dark. And she says that he'd been told that before. Now here's me thinking, right, so his eyes got dark. Does that mean his pupils have expanded? So I went and did a bit of rummaging and found a few articles, but the best sort of one with a hypothesis behind it, etc., scientific method, blah, 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 is in the links in the description. And basically it suggests that a expansion of a pupil, not a pupil at school, because clearly that's what happened to me, in your eye, the dilation is caused by sort of an emotional response, but it can be both because you are appalled or because you are aroused. So it can cause either response. So obviously you're layman like me, I'm glad I read that, because I'm likely to think that a pupil dilation means that you're attracted to something, that something is exciting you, that you are enjoying something. So I was thinking that he was possibly enjoying telling the story. However, I'm going to give myself a break, because I'm thinking, well, which one is it? But when we consider that the only time we've seen Chris Watts worry, well, that I've seen Chris Watts worry, and people have claimed that he was worried when he was putting his stuff in the car. I disagree. I think he was sauntering. I think you couldn't tell a worried expression in that light if you tried. I think that the only two times I've seen him worried are here, where he sees the camera footage and realises he's in the shit. And the other time is when the judge sentenced him, and he was all up a height and his knee was twitching, and the judge sentenced him. And then he cried some tears for poor little Christopher. So that leads me to think that it's more likely that he's getting some enjoyment out of it. Another factor that would add to that would be that not only does he not really seem to care about anything but himself, but also he enjoys deceiving people. He admitted that he told his teacher a lie when he was at school, and they believed him, and he thought that was great. So obviously where he's spinning a yarn, which is something he does a lot, maybe his pupils have expanded then because he's actually actively enjoying that. Unless, of course, he just wanted to throw Cheryln over the table, but I don't know about that. There's a visual I could have done without. Anyway, right, so the Rusacks were quite upset and had made a public statement. I think I've got it here. Let me have a look. There we go. So, whoops. If I can get a hold of it. There we go. Okay, so this is from Grant and Hoffman Law Firm. And it's the statement from the Rusacks regarding the appearance on Dr. Oz. Our firm spoke with Mrs. Cadle on the 18th of April regarding the book she was writing in the assistance of Christopher Watts, with the assistance of Christopher Watts. At the time of the phone call and in subsequent conversations with Christopher Watts himself, the Rusack family, Shanann's parents and grandparents of Bella, Celeste and Nico, thank you, see how everybody gets a mention because these people existed and are loved, were led to believe this book was about Christopher's journey to find redemption through Christ while imprisoned for his crimes. It would appear after a phone conversation with Christopher on October 7th that Mrs. Cadle deceived Mr. Watts regarding the purpose and content of her new book, Letters from Christopher. In contravention of his stated goals of writing a book about Christopher's journey to Christ, this book is instead being marketed on Amazon as a true crime story. In the author's own words, Chris receives tons of mail from family and friends, but also fans. Cheryln decided that after a calling from God, has anybody else seen the Blues Brothers? On a mission from God. She should write back to Chris. She would write back to Chris and ask him if he would write a book about his story. If she could write a book about a story, surprisingly, he wrote back. These statements are very much in line with conversations our firm had with Mr. Watts, wherein he indicated he was receiving correspondence from various sources, including supposed fans, inquiring minds, and the media. In Christopher's words, what stood out about Mrs. Cadle's request to speak with him was her intention of writing a book about redemption through Christ. It was Christopher's intention that this book be used to help guide people in the Christian faith. So basically we're getting it. They're saying that she took a lend of that. I will put that on the Casbat Facebook page, that document, guys. It's a PDF, just for if you want to have a look at it yourself. So that is there. Oh, right, just close that. Okay, so I will upload that to the Facebook page later, just so you can have a look. Okay, so basically the Rusacks are saying it was supposed to be about Christopher's redemption through Christ and finding his way while he's in prison, and the Rusacks felt deceived, and furthermore they felt that Christopher Watts was deceived. I would argue that Christopher Watts is not trustworthy, so anyway. So Cheryln, kind of in the politest way possible, says that the Rusacks are lying, that they weren't promised a copy of the book. And I question her honesty, because through that last section of the show, she uses a phrase twice. My heart hurts for those people. There's something about the phrase those people, like those kids. Can you remember Chris saying those kids? Those kids are my life. It's like distancing. It would, and that the fact that she's using a similar term, my heart hurts for those people. And she says, I've done nothing to hurt them. And then after that says, I didn't hurt them intentionally. So which is it? So if you've hurt the Rusacks, you need to acknowledge that you've hurt the Rusacks and apologise, instead of saying I've done nothing to hurt them. And then, but I might have hurt them, but I didn't do it on purpose. I've got some news for you. If I smack myself in the head with something heavy, like this, I don't know, right, it hurts. Now if you smack somebody else in the head with something, you go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. Does that mean that the pain suddenly vanishes and everything's okay? It doesn't. You need to acknowledge that you've hurt somebody in order to help to fix it. So, and properly, or do something practical to assist, instead of absolving yourself from blame. And obviously your instinct is, if you do that, to feel really terrible. But this Cadle does not seem to feel terrible. So, and all I can say is, that's a bit of a shame. I would like to have seen that handled better. Anywho, I am going to go. I'm going to leave that there for today. I shall be back later with some more crime. Leave a like and subscribe. If you have not visited us before, come and join the backpack. And I will be back with more later. Also, if you haven't done yet, please do subscribe to my music channel, Casbat Sonar. For those who enjoy me singing, I appreciate not everybody does, that's fine. But for those who do, if you're wondering where the tracks have gone, that's where they've gone. Alright, take care, be good, be happy.
And everyone can see your anger is misplaced, and I'm your